नमस्कार। प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी ने वियतनाम के प्रधानमंत्री गुएन जुआन फू से मुलाकात की और इसके बाद दोनों नेताओं के बीच द्विपक्षीय मसलों पर बातचीत हुई है। आइए इसके बाद दोनों ही साझा प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस को संबोधित करने वाले हैं। सीधा आपको ये लिए चलते हैं।
đồng trong cuộc kháng chiến cứu nước thời chống Pháp Mỹ chính phủ và nhân dân Ấn Độ luôn luôn ủng hộ quan hệ tốt đẹp với chính phủ và nhân dân Việt Nam. Hôm nay một lần nữa tôi xin thay mặt chính phủ và nhân dân Việt Nam một lần nữa xin chào mừng ngài Thủ tướng Cộng hòa Ấn Độ Narendra Modi và đoàn đại biểu cấp cao của chính phủ Ấn Độ sang thăm chính thức Việt Nam, mang một tình cảm lớn đến nhân dân Việt Nam của chúng ta. Việt Nam đánh giá cao ý nghĩa của chuyến thăm này, đặc biệt là khi hai nước đang hướng tới kỷ niệm 45 năm thiết lập quan hệ ngoại giao và 10 năm quan hệ đối tác chiến lược trong năm 2017. Ngài Thủ tướng Ấn Độ Modi và tôi đã có các cuộc hội đàm thực chất hiệu quả trên tinh thần cởi mở và hữu nghị. Chúng tôi tái khẳng định việc coi trọng quan hệ hữu nghị truyền thống lâu đời và đối tác chiến lược giữa Việt Nam và Ấn Độ, bày tỏ hài lòng trước sự phát triển sâu rộng trên hầu hết các lĩnh vực hợp tác. Tôi đánh giá cao những ý kiến của ngài Thủ tướng Modi, thể hiện chính phủ Ấn Độ coi quan hệ với Việt Nam như một trụ cột quan trọng trong chính sách hành động hướng đông của Ấn Độ. Việt Nam khẳng định sự ủng hộ nhất quán đối với Ấn Độ trong việc triển khai chính sách hành động hướng đông, và Ấn Độ đóng vai trò to lớn hơn ở khu vực và trên thế giới. Hai bên đã nhất trí nâng cấp quan hệ đối tác chiến lược lên đối tác chiến lược toàn diện nhằm phản ánh sự phát triển sâu rộng quan hệ hai nước Việt Nam Ấn Độ phù hợp với lợi ích cơ bản lâu dài, đáp ứng nguyện vọng của nhân dân hai nước cũng như mong muốn đóng góp cho hòa bình, ổn định, hợp tác và phát triển ở khu vực và trên thế giới. Để đưa quan hệ hai nước phát triển xứng tầm với khuôn khổ quan hệ mới, hai bên cam kết tăng cường hơn nữa sự hiểu biết lẫn nhau và tin cậy chính trị thông qua việc thường xuyên trao đổi các chuyến thăm cấp cao, các cấp, thúc đẩy quan hệ Đảng, Quốc hội và giao lưu nhân dân. Hai bên nhất trí triển khai hiệu quả tuyên bố tầm nhìn chung về hợp tác quốc phòng và làm sâu sắc hơn nữa hợp tác trong lĩnh vực này. Chúng tôi nhất trí hợp tác về kinh tế, thương mại và đầu tư có tiềm năng lớn hơn để trở thành một trụ cột chiến lược trong quan hệ song phương Việt Nam Ấn Độ, để thực hiện mục tiêu đưa kim ngạch thương mại hai chiều đạt trên 15 tỷ đô la Mỹ vào năm 2020. Chúng tôi đề nghị các bộ ngành hữu quan hai nước có các biện pháp cụ thể, quyết liệt, tạo môi trường đầu tư kinh doanh, tháo dỡ mọi rào cản và tạo mọi điều kiện thuận lợi tối đa cho doanh nghiệp hai nước, giảm bớt các rào cản thương mại đối với việc xuất nhập khẩu các mặt hàng hai bên có tiềm năng. Chúng tôi đánh giá cao sáng kiến sản xuất tại Ấn Độ của ngài Thủ tướng Modi và khuyến khích các doanh nghiệp Việt Nam tích cực tìm kiếm cơ hội tham gia vào sáng kiến này. Việt Nam hoan nghênh các tập đoàn của Ấn Độ mở rộng quy mô lĩnh vực đầu tư về dầu khí, năng lượng, hạ tầng, công nghệ thông tin, nông nghiệp, công nghệ cao. Tôi đặc biệt đánh giá cao việc Ấn Độ khẳng định sẽ hợp tác chặt chẽ với Việt Nam trong thăm dò, khai thác dầu khí. Việt Nam cam kết tiếp tục ưu tiên cao cho hợp tác trên các lĩnh vực quan trọng khác như năng lượng nguyên tử, dân sự, công nghệ thông tin, khoa học kỹ thuật, giáo dục, y tế, văn hóa, du lịch và giao lưu nhân dân, khẳng định sự cần thiết của việc tăng cường kết nối hàng không, hàng hải, đường bộ giữa hai nước. Nhân dịp này, chúng tôi hoan nghênh việc ký các văn kiện hợp tác trong nhiều lĩnh vực giữa các bộ, ngành giữa hai nước. Và chúng ta vừa chứng kiến hai nước đã ký 12 hiệp định và những bản ghi nhớ thiết thực để triển khai hợp tác đối tác toàn diện, chiến lược toàn diện giữa hai nước Việt Nam, Ấn Độ. Ngài Thủ tướng Modi và tôi nhất trí sẽ tăng cường phối hợp chặt chẽ tại diễn đàn khu vực và quốc tế, đặc biệt là tại ASEAN và các diễn đàn liên quan. Chúng tôi cũng đã trao đổi các vấn đề liên quan tới tình hình Biển Đông và tái khẳng định mong muốn quyết tâm hợp tác nhằm duy trì hòa bình, ổn định, bảo đảm an ninh, an toàn, tự do hàng hải và hàng không tại Biển Đông nói riêng và khu vực châu Á Thái Bình Dương nói chung. Các bên cần giải quyết hòa bình tranh chấp ở Biển Đông trên cơ sở luật pháp quốc tế, trong đó có Công ước về luật Liên Hợp Quốc về luật biển 1982, tôn trọng tiến trình ngoại giao và pháp lý. Chúng tôi tin tưởng chắc chắn rằng hợp tác sâu rộng và thực chất trên tinh thần quan hệ đối tác chiến lược toàn diện giữa Việt Nam và Ấn Độ không chỉ mang lại lợi ích cho mỗi nước mà còn góp phần tăng cường quan hệ ASEAN-Ấn Độ, đóng góp cho hòa bình, ổn định, hợp tác và phát triển các khu vực châu Á, Thái Bình Dương và trên thế giới. Một lần nữa tôi xin cảm ơn Thủ tướng Modi và tất cả các bạn.
Your Excellency, Prime Minister Nguyen Xuyen Phuc, members of the media, thank you, Excellency, for your warm words of welcome and generous hospitality extended to me and my delegation. Earlier this morning, you made the special gesture of personally showing me Ho Chi Minh House. Ho Chi Minh was one of the tallest leaders of the 20th century. Visiting his house was a pilgrimage. Thank you, Excellency, for extending me that privilege. Let me also congratulate the people of Vietnam on their National Day that you celebrated yesterday. Friends, the links between our societies go back over 2,000 years. The advent of Buddhism from India to Vietnam and the monuments of Vietnam's Hindu charm temples stand testimony of these bonds. For people of my generation, Vietnam holds a special place in our hearts. The bravery of the Vietnamese people in gaining independence from colonial rule has been a true inspiration, and your success in national reunification and commitment to nation building reflects the strength of character of your people. We in India have admired your determination, rejoice in your success, and have been with you all along in your national journey. Friends, My conversation with Prime Minister Hook has been extensive and productive. Our discussions covered the full range of bilateral and multilateral cooperation. We have agreed to scale up and strengthen our bilateral engagements. As two important countries in this region, we also feel it necessary to further our ties on regional and international issues of common concern. We agreed to tap into the growing economic opportunities in the region. We also recognize the need to cooperate in responding to emerging regional challenges. Our decision to upgrade our strategic partnership to a comprehensive strategic partnership captures the intent and path of our future cooperation. It will provide a new direction, momentum, and substance to our bilateral cooperation. Our common efforts will also contribute to stability, security, and prosperity in this region. Friends, we realize that our efforts to bring economic prosperity to our people need to be accompanied by steps to secure them. Prime Minister and I have therefore agreed to deepen our defense and security engagements to advance our common interests. The agreement on construction of offshore patrol boats signed earlier today is one of the steps to give concrete shape to our defense engagement. I'm also happy to announce a new defense line of credit for Vietnam of $500 million for facilitating deeper defense cooperation. The range of agreements signed just a while ago point to the diversity and depth of our cooperation. Friends, Vietnam is undergoing rapid development and strong economic growth. As Vietnam seeks to empower and enrich its people, modernize its agriculture, encourage entrepreneurship and innovation, strengthen its science and technology base, create new institutional capacities for faster economic development, and take steps to build a modern nation. India and its 1.25 billion people stand ready to be Vietnam's partner and a friend in this journey. Prime Minister and I agreed to take several decisions today to move on the pledge of our partnership. India will be offering a grant of $5 million for the establishment of a software park in the Telecommunications University in Nha Trang. The framework agreement on space cooperation would allow Vietnam to join hands with Indian Space Research Organization to meet its national development objectives. Enhancing bilateral commercial engagement is also our strategic objective. For this, new trade and business opportunities will be tapped to achieve the trade target of $15 billion by 2020. I also sought facilitation of ongoing Indian projects and investment in Vietnam. And I have invited Vietnamese companies to take advantage of the various schemes and flagship programs of my government. Friends, the cultural connect between our people is centuries old. We hope for an early establishment and opening of the Indian Cultural Center in Hanoi. The Archaeological Survey of India can soon start the conservation and restoration work of the charm monuments at My Son. I am thankful for Vietnam's leadership in facilitating inscription of Nalanda Mahavihara as a UNESCO World Heritage Site earlier this year. Friends, ASEAN is important to India in terms of historical links, geographical proximity, cultural ties, and the strategic space that we share. It is central to our Act East policy. Under Vietnam's leadership, as ASEAN coordinator for India, we will work towards a strengthened India-ASEAN partnership across all areas. Excellency Phuc, you have been a generous and a gracious host. The affection shown by Vietnamese people has touched my heart. We can take satisfaction from the nature and direction of our partnership. At the same time, we must stay focused to keep up the momentum in our ties. I have enjoyed your hospitality. It would be my pleasure to host you and the leadership of Vietnam in India. We look forward to welcoming you in India. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, these are the visuals that we are getting live from Hanoi, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Vietnamese Prime Minister addressed a joint press conference. Just a short while back, earlier, Prime Minister Narendra Modi held talks with Vietnamese counterpart Nguyen Yen Xuan Phuc in Hanoi. And now, the talks were held around bolstering strategic bilateral ties in key areas like defense, security, counter-terrorism and trade. Now, several agreements have now been signed following the talks. 12 pacts in the field of health, IT, cyber, solar energy were signed. Now, this is the first visit by an Indian Prime Minister to Vietnam in 15 years. Now, Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also call on President Tran Dai Quang and also meet Communist Party General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong and the National Assembly Chairwoman. Earlier today, the Prime Minister was accorded a ceremonial welcome in front of the majestic presidential palace. The Prime Minister also inspected a guard of honor by the 3 armed forces of the host country. Remember, Prime Minister Modi flew in here last night for a day-long packed visit to Vietnam. He leaves this evening for the G20 talks in China on 4th and 5th of September. Well, Well, that is one big story that we'll keep tracking through the day. But let's move on in the bulletin. Well, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi met Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi on Friday. The two leaders decided to significantly step up their defense and security cooperation in order to deal with the twin challenges of terrorism and radicalization. Both the sides also agreed to cooperate on key issues like UNSC reforms and enhancing mutual trade and investment.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi on Friday held summit-level talks in New Delhi. Delegation-level meetings followed the talks that focused on deepening the India-Egypt relationship. The two leaders also witnessed the signing of an agreement on maritime transport before making a joint statement to the media. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said there exist multiple pillars of strengths that can be exploited by both countries. The two sides also spoke about terrorism that both countries are fighting against. The Prime Minister said Egypt agreed to cooperate on fighting terrorism together with India by means of intelligence sharing.
President and I are of one view that growing radicalization, increasing violence, and spread of terror pose a real threat not just to our two countries, but also to nations and communities across regions.
We are further required to reinforce our ties and cooperation due to the sizable threats and common challenges as we face, starting from the dangers of terror and extremism that entails concerted efforts at all levels.
Addressing the threat perception surrounding the Islamic State and other terror organizations, Prime Minister Modi and President Sisi agreed to enhance cooperation in defense and security. India will help Egypt in procuring and upgrading defense equipments as well as training personnel for capacity building.
We agreed to further our defense and security engagements, which would aim at expanding defense trade, training and capacity building.
We will work for a robust military and security cooperation with India and enhance existing activities in this field. In particular, we need to translate the two countries' shared views on counterterrorism into practical measures and clear plans in a more viable bilateral cooperation in this respect.
Egypt is a major country of the sub-Saharan Africa, which has development as top priority. India is cooperating with African countries by providing investment and easy loans in the form of line of credit. At the summit meeting, both countries also decided to cooperate in humanitarian and disaster management as well. Earlier, the Egyptian president was accorded a ceremonial reception at the Rashtrapati Bhavan. Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari also met the visiting dignitary and discussed issues of mutual, regional and international importance.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also tried to convince Egyptian President al-Sisi about the terrorist designs of Pakistan and how it impacts the whole terrorist activity in the whole region. He also said that the stand OIC takes sometimes, it strengthens the terrorist designs of Pakistan. And it will be interesting to see that how al-Sisi goes and takes a stand in the OIC in the coming days. Akhilesh Suman for Rajya television with camera person Shiv Kumar in Delhi.
Well, on to some other news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has accused his self-appointed champion of Dalits for giving political colours to the social problem of discrimination against them. Now, in an interview to a private news network, he condemned atrocities against Dalits and asked politicians, including his own partymen, to stop making irresponsible statements. He said that he was committed to the welfare of Dalits and other oppressed of the society, but some people were levelling all kinds of allegations against him as they cannot digest that Modi is pro-Dalit. Now, he described atrocities against Dalits as a deep-rooted social problem and said that the need is to remove such evils against such communities who have suffered for centuries. He said statistics show that incidents of communal violence, atrocities on Dalits and atrocities on tribals are lesser during his government as compared to the previous government, and that he is committed to the welfare of the community. Well, Vice President Mohammad Hamid Ansari has underscored the need of education for overall development of the country. Now, addressing a seminar in the national capital on the challenges faced by elementary schools in India, the Vice President said that even after a high enrollment ratio in elementary schools, the quality of a learning outcome remains undeniably poor.
Despite these significant gains, a critical appraisal of the elementary education scenario reveals that large gaps in implementation exist. India still has the largest number of out-of-school children in the world. There is also a great disparity between urban and rural education, and children from different social and geographic backgrounds have radically different schooling experience.
News on Jammu and Kashmir. Well, the centre will brief MPs who will be part of the all-party delegation to the state today. The presentation will be on the contours of the tour, during which they will interact with a cross-section of people in an effort to bring peace in the troubled state. Now, Home Minister Rajnath Singh will lead the delegation and will also comprise Leader of the Opposition Rajya Sabha Ghulam Nabi Azad and his Lok Sabha colleague Mallikarjun Kharge. The delegation visiting the valley due to protest in the aftermath of the killing of Hizbul Mujahideen militant Burhan Wani will have 28 MPs. The visit is scheduled for 4th and 5th of September. Meanwhile, on the ground in Kashmir, curfew was reimposed in many parts, including Srinagar, as a precautionary measure ahead of Friday prayer congregations. Normal life remained paralyzed in the valley for the 56th day on Friday that has seen 70 deaths so far due to violent protests. Well, All India Trinamool Congress Party was extended the national party status by the Election Commission of India. The TMC qualified for the status as it is now recognized as a state party in 4 states, including West Bengal, Manipur, Tripura and Arunachal Pradesh. The Mamata Banerjee-led party will join the Congress, BJP, BSP, NCP, CPI and CPM, which are recognized as national parties. Now, there are 64 recognized state parties in the country. The party, meanwhile, welcomed the move, saying that it was much awaited and that it now aims to play a bigger role in the 2019 Lok Sabha elections.
I'm the most happiest person in my party because that time we couldn't dream even, or we couldn't foresee anything that what we are going to do. We have been expelled from the Congress party, and under the leadership of Mamata Banerjee, we are now sailing a boat.
Well, radiologists across the country have deferred their indefinite strike by a few months. This came after the government assured them their issues related to the legislation on sex determination would be addressed. The Indian Radiological and Imaging Association had said that it would go on a nationwide indefinite strike after it failed to reach a resolution with the government. The IRIA also held a protest in the national capital to press for their demand. The apex body of radiologists had on 31st of August given the first call for an indefinite strike from 1st of September. Later, it held talks with the Health Ministry on the same day. The apex body of the radiologists has alleged that certain provisions of the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act are draconian and that these need to be amended. Meanwhile, hospital services were severely affected with the government nurses going on an indefinite strike. The massive protest has been called by the All India Government Nurses Federation and the Delhi Nurses Federation, seeking redressal of issues related to pay and allowances. Now, government hospitals in Delhi, including those run by the centre, the city government or the civic bodies, employ about 20,000 nurses. The centre called the agitation unfortunate and says that it hopes to address the issue through dialogue. Meanwhile, the Delhi government invoked the stringent ESMA, declaring the nurses' stir as illegal. Let's move on to some international news. Now, 3 days of mourning has been declared in Uzbekistan after the country's only president, Islam Karimov, died, leaving an uncertain future for a government marred by controversy. Well, Karimov's government has often been accused of human rights atrocities, including forced child labor, the killing of unarmed protesters, and even boiling protesters alive.
Дорогие соотечественники, с огромной скорбью в сердце сообщаем вам о кончине нашего дорогого президента Ислама Абдуганиевича Каримова.
The Uzbek government confirming the death of country's first and the only president, Islam Karimov. One of Asia's most authoritarian leaders, Karimov died after 27 years in power. He was taken to hospital 6 days back with a suspected brain hemorrhage.
Первый президент нашей страны, Ислам Каримов, поистине великая историческая личность, благодаря которому наша республика обрела независимость.
Human rights group called Uzbek government as one of the most repressive in the world, especially after the massacre of protesters in the city of Andijan in 2005 when hundreds were killed, the event leading to a breakdown in relations with Washington. The late leader often justified his strong-arm tactics by highlighting danger from Islamist militancy. However, his worst abuses have been ignored by the West because of Uzbekistan's location as a vital supply route for the war in Afghanistan. Russian President Vladimir Putin has called Karimov's death a great loss, with Russian Prime Minister slated to attend the funeral. Former Soviet states of Kyrgyzstan, Belarus and Kazakhstan are also sending in their delegations.
Özbekistan Devlet Başkanı İslam Kerimov hayatını kaybetti. Allah'tan rahmet diliyoruz. Özbek halkının acılarını paylaşıyoruz. Türkiye Cumhuriyeti olarak.
Becoming a leader of the country while it was still a republic of the Soviet Union, Karimov assumed presidency of Uzbekistan in 1991. In 1995, his mandate was extended for another 5 years by referendum. He won re-election in 2000, 2007 and 2015. Karimov has no official successor. The most likely candidate to replace him appears to be the country's longtime Prime Minister, Shavkat Mirziyoyev. However, there are few official clues as to how Uzbekistan's new leader may be picked. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV. Well, at least 14 people were killed and dozens injured after an explosion in a market in the home city of Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte. The incident took place at a street market outside the Marco Polo Hotel in Davao in the southern Philippines. Well, according to police, at least 30 people have been taken to the hospital. The cause of the blast was not immediately clear. The police began their investigation to find out the cause of the explosion. Now, President Duterte is hugely popular in Davao, having served as its mayor for more than 22 years before his stunning national election win in May. His election has prompted a spike in drug-related killings, with more than 2,000 people killed since he took office on 30th of June, nearly half of them in police operations. Now, his son, Paulo Duterte, who is the vice mayor of the city, said that he received a text message warning him of a threat 2 days before the explosion, but did not give any more details.
Hindi natin alam kung what caused the explosion here. So kung masabi sa atin na IED or something or grenade, so dyan pa natin ma-confirm na confirm talaga yung confidential na text message.
News from Bangladesh, where the police has killed the second-in-commander of the Dhaka cafe siege, in which 22 people were killed in July. The man known as Murad was the head of the military wing of Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh, which has pledged allegiance to the Islamic State. Now, Murad was killed in a shootout after the police launched a raid at his hideouts outside the capital, Dhaka. 3 policemen, including the officer in charge of the nearby police station, were also wounded in the gunfight with the terrorist. Well, the raid came 6 days after Bangladesh-born Canadian citizen Tamim Ahmed Chaudhry, accused of masterminding the cafe attack, was killed. News from the U.S. now, where one person has been killed as Hurricane Hermine hit Florida on Friday, causing severe damage and knocking out power to nearly 3 lakh homes and businesses. After making landfall early on Friday, Hermine swept through Florida and Georgia. Gusts of 130 km/h caused storm surges that flooded parts of the Florida coast. Now, in the key town of Cedar Key, waters rose more than 9.5 feet, among the highest surges ever seen. Having weakened to a tropical storm, it entered South Carolina, where local officials have reported flooding the roads, fallen trees and power outrage. A state of emergency remains in effect in most of Florida. Emergency has also been declared in Georgia, North Carolina, Maryland and Virginia. Now, there are concerns over stagnant water in the state of Florida, which has been battling the mosquito-borne Zika virus. Now downgraded to a tropical storm, Hermine is pursuing northeastward, and a tropical storm warning has been issued to the parts of New Jersey, Connecticut and New York City.
Out of bed, the water is ankle deep, and go and open the door. Flood waters come rushing in. Now the water inside the house is knee deep. We go, we get all the kids up and load them into the truck, and by the time we got out of there, we're trying to drive out of Huntington Beach. Water was up to our thighs. We're waiting out of there. Just barely made it out of there.
It seems like this storm was a little stronger than the previous one, so whatever we did and the neighbors, the sandbagging, it just didn't work. I mean, it was the pressure, it just, in the, I guess, the height of the surge, that nothing really helped.
Let's get you some more international stories in World Wrap. The FBI has published documents relating to its investigation into Hillary Clinton's use of private email while serving as the Secretary of State. The 58 pages of notes included the Democratic presidential nominee's interview and details about her private server at her New York residence. The FBI in July ended a year-long inquiry into whether she broke the law by using a private server. FBI director did not recommend criminal charges. A NASA spacecraft has sent back the best views of Jupiter yet, revealing turbulent storms in the North Pole. NASA on Friday released a batch of close-up pictures taken by the Juno spacecraft last week. Juno had flown within 2,500 miles of Jupiter's cloud tops. It was the first of the 36 planned closed passes during the 20-month mission. A glass-bottomed bridge in China that was heralded as a record breaker has closed. The officials said that the government was planning urgent maintenance work in that area. However, sources say that the bridge spanning a canyon that just opened 13 days ago has been overwhelmed by the volume of visitors. The 430-meter-long bridge, which cost $3.4 million to connects two mountain cliffs in Hunan province of China. Now, news from the US Open. Well, top seed Sania Mirza and her mixed doubles partner Ivan Dodig of Croatia have won the first round, beating US pair of Taylor Townsend and Donald Young in straight sets 6-4, 6-4. Well, Sania has last won the US Open in the mixed doubles event in 2004 along with Bruno Soares of Brazil. Meanwhile, Rohan Bopanna and his Danish partner Fredrik Nielsen have lost in the second round of men's doubles to US-New Zealand pair of Brian Baker and Marcus Daniel. Meanwhile, Liana Pace has also crashed out of the men's doubles championship in the first round itself. Meanwhile, in the men's singles, defending champion Novak Djokovic secured a place in the last 16 of the tournament, getting another walkover after injured Russian player Mikhail Yugsny withdrew from the match. Meanwhile, a US Open champion for two-time Rafael Nadal has also advanced to the fourth round, beating Andrei Kuznetsov of Russia in straight sets. And in the women's singles, former world number one, Caroline Wozniacki continued her winning streak as she entered the fourth round of the US Open, defeating her Romanian opponent, Monica Niculescu, in straight sets.
Had 29 unforced errors, and Caroline...
Well, that's it from me and my team in this edition of news. Thanks for watching.